The Azure Dreams Resort in the end fell into a chilling silence on July 26th when Emily Turner, a young woman, vanished from one of the world's most secure luxury destinations. She left behind only a hidden diary and a trail of evidence that would uncover decades of calculated predatory behavior. Emily, last seen at the resort's beachfront restaurant around 9 p.m., had borrowed waitress Amara Rashid's phone to make a brief call before disappearing. Her new husband, James Harrington, a powerful hotel magnate, waited hours before reporting her missing. When questioned, he claimed she had gone for a midnight swim. Resort security logs, however, revealed a different story. Harrington made 3 calls to his legal team before allowing any search of the beach. The first major clue emerged in Villa 12. Under the bed lay Emily's diary, its final entry chilling and explicit. "If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident." JC discovered the photos. He knows I was going to expose everything. Sophie has the evidence. Local police discovered signs of a struggle hidden beneath layers of opulence, traces of blood, broken jewelry, and a shattered phone. Days later, Detective Jessica Blackwood arrived to take over the case. Her investigation unearthed a disturbing pattern spanning decades. Jennifer Hayes had vanished in 2008 after meeting Harrington at one of his hotels. Maria Santos was found dead in 2013 after threatening to expose him. Ashley Porter's suicide came just days after she contacted a journalist regarding Harrington's private islands. Emily Turner's disappearance was not an isolated incident. It was another thread in a dark tapestry of exploitation and violence. Harrington's empire stretched far beyond his hotel chain. It included private islands equipped with surveillance systems, offshore accounts laundering millions, and a network of loyal employees paid to keep quiet. His modus operandi was chillingly efficient: hire vulnerable young women, isolate them, and eliminate them when they became liabilities. Emily Turner, believing she was marrying into wealth and security, had unknowingly stumbled into this web. The evidence against Harrington began to mount. Phone records revealed a call the night Emily vanished. "It's handled. Start the cleanup." His security team scrambled to destroy records within hours of her disappearance, but overlooked critical cameras at the resort's service entrance. They didn't anticipate Victoria's twin sister, Sophie, who had received encrypted files from Emily just the day before. Nor could they erase the DNA under Emily's broken fingernails, which police later found in the villa's drains. This wasn't merely a missing persons case. It was the start of unraveling a decades-long operation of abuse, trafficking, and murder, all hidden behind the facade of a legitimate business empire. Emily Turner's disappearance marked the beginning of a relentless pursuit of justice. It was a case that would expose how immense wealth and influence had protected a predator hiding in plain sight. Emily Turner grew up in a modest 2-story house in Franklin, Tennessee, where rusted mailboxes and tight-knit communities marked the landscape. Born just minutes after her twin sister Sophie, Emily exhibited an early determination that would later draw a predator's attention. The Turner twins were inseparable yet distinct. Sophie was introspective and studious, while Emily sought the spotlight. At 15, Emily entered her first beauty pageant, wearing a second-hand dress her mother had altered. Her talent, a haunting violin piece, won her the crown, and the prize money went toward her mother Grace's mounting medical bills. Grace Turner's stage 3 breast cancer diagnosis came when the twins were just 16. The family's already precarious financial situation deteriorated as treatment costs soared. Their father, unable to bear the mounting pressure, walked out one Sunday morning and never returned. Emily took on the role of provider, balancing school, pageants, and part-time jobs to support her family and her dream of attending Vanderbilt University. That dream led her to the Bluebird Diner, where she worked long hours for minimum wage and tips. It was there, on a fateful June evening, that James Harrington entered her life. His private jet had unexpectedly diverted to Nashville, later investigations revealing he'd been drawn by Emily's photo in a local pageant write-up. For hours, he sat in her section, observing her every move. He noted her grace under pressure, her interactions with customers, and her evident financial struggles. She fit the profile he always sought, beauty coupled with vulnerability. Harrington returned to the diner repeatedly, each time leaving $500 tips with his business card tucked beneath the receipts. Emily initially dismissed him as a creepy, overly persistent customer and even confided her unease to Sophie. But Harrington's offers became harder to ignore. He promised a managerial position for her, full medical coverage for her mother, and hinted at the possibility of funding her education. The pressure was subtle but relentless. Small gifts, groceries when the family account was empty, a new phone when hers broke, became lifelines wrapped in invisible strings. Emily Turner believed she was marrying into a life of privilege and security. Instead, she became the latest victim of a predator who had spent decades perfecting his methods of manipulation and exploitation. Harrington's most strategic move came in late June. Grace Turner was offered a high-paying position as guest relations manager at Harrington's Nashville hotel, with a salary far exceeding her previous income and comprehensive health insurance. That same day, Emily received an envelope containing payment for her full tuition at Vanderbilt University. The accompanying note read simply, "No strings attached, just dinner to say thank you." Sophie, however, was skeptical from the start. "No one offers this much without expecting something in return," she warned her sister. Despite her doubts, the promise of financial stability and better health care for their mother overwhelmed Emily, leaving her feeling indebted. The control Harrington exerted was subtle but relentless. Emily's diner shifts became an issue, conflicting with their planned dinners. Harrington suggested she quit to focus on their relationship. He insisted her friends didn't understand their bond and advised keeping things private. When Sophie began questioning his intentions, Harrington hinted that the financial assistance for Emily's tuition might be reconsidered. By August, Emily's life was firmly under Harrington's influence. The phone he gifted her included software designed to monitor her location under the guise of protecting her safety. Harrington persuaded Emily to defer her college enrollment, claiming he had better opportunities in mind. Even Grace's job security became entangled in Harrington's demands, subtly linking the family's well-being to Emily's compliance. The final step came with a phone call in early September. Grace's cancer treatments, which had shown promising results, were suddenly flagged for insurance review. Harrington assured Emily he could resolve the issue over dinner. When she arrived at his hotel suite that evening, she was met with a diamond ring. It wasn't a proposal in the traditional sense. It was a calculated move to further tighten his control. Sophie tried one last time to intervene, researching Harrington's history and finding stories of other young women who had been helped, married, and whose lives later took inexplicably tragic turns. Emily, however, saw only the security Harrington offered her family. "I've made my choice," she told Sophie. "I can handle this." Months later, Emily Turner married James Harrington in a grand ceremony. Surveillance footage captured her in tears before the ceremony, but they were dismissed by onlookers as tears of joy. A dual legacy. James Harrington's public image was impeccable. Harrington Hotels International, with its luxury properties across the globe, symbolized success and philanthropy. Known as a self-made billionaire, Harrington was celebrated for his charitable contributions, including funding scholarships and donating to medical research. His charm and generosity earned him accolades and a reputation as a visionary leader. However, beneath this polished exterior lay a darker truth. Harrington's business empire concealed a pattern of exploitation that spanned decades. The troubling stories began with Jennifer Hayes in the late 1980s. As a young receptionist at one of Harrington's hotels, she accepted a promotion that led to a sudden disappearance during a business trip. No evidence of wrongdoing was found, and her family eventually accepted a settlement in exchange for confidentiality. Maria Santos, a housekeeper at another property, was briefly married to Harrington. Tragically, she passed away under mysterious circumstances shortly thereafter. Investigations concluded her death was accidental, but questions lingered. Ashley Porter, a customer service employee at a Harrington property, discovered irregularities in the company's financial records. Shortly after raising concerns, she was found deceased, with authorities ruling her death a suicide. Key evidence related to her findings went missing, leaving unresolved questions. The pattern was consistent. Vulnerable individuals were drawn into Harrington's orbit through job offers or financial aid. Promises of opportunity often came with increasing isolation, and those who sought to distance themselves or raise concerns faced obstacles, from legal threats to sudden misfortune. Harrington's influence extended beyond his hotels. A network of trusted associates managed sensitive operations, handled payouts, and ensured compliance. Select properties included private facilities where confidentiality was strictly enforced, further safeguarding Harrington's activities. For years, Harrington's wealth and connections shielded him from scrutiny. His actions remained hidden behind a facade of respectability and philanthropy. However, Emily Turner's disappearance became the turning point that began to unravel the carefully maintained image, drawing attention to the darker truths behind the Harrington empire. Harrington's most strategic move came in late June. Grace Turner was offered a high-paying position as guest relations manager at Harrington's Nashville hotel, with a salary far exceeding her previous income and comprehensive health insurance. That same day, Emily received an envelope containing payment for her full tuition at Vanderbilt University. The accompanying note read simply, "No strings attached, just dinner to say thank you." Sophie, however, was skeptical from the start. "No one offers this much without expecting something in return," she warned her sister. Despite her doubts, the promise of financial stability and better health care for their mother overwhelmed Emily, leaving her feeling indebted. The control Harrington exerted was subtle but relentless. Emily's diner shifts became an issue, conflicting with their planned dinners. Harrington suggested she quit to focus on their relationship. He insisted her friends didn't understand their bond and advised keeping things private. When Sophie began questioning his intentions, Harrington hinted that the financial assistance for Emily's tuition might be reconsidered. By August, Emily's life was firmly under Harrington's influence. The phone he gifted her included software designed to monitor her location under the guise of protecting her safety. Harrington persuaded Emily to defer her college enrollment, claiming he had better opportunities in mind. Even Grace's job security became entangled in Harrington's demands, subtly linking the family's well-being to Emily's compliance. The final step came with a phone call in early September. Grace's cancer treatments, which had shown promising results, were suddenly flagged for insurance review. Harrington assured Emily he could resolve the issue over dinner. When she arrived at his hotel suite that evening, she was met with a diamond ring. It wasn't a proposal in the traditional sense. It was a calculated move to further tighten his control. Sophie tried one last time to intervene, researching Harrington's history and finding stories of other young women who had been helped, married, and whose lives later took inexplicably tragic turns. Emily, however, saw only the security Harrington offered her family. "I've made my choice," she told Sophie. "I can handle this." Months later, Emily Turner married James Harrington in a grand ceremony. Surveillance footage captured her in tears before the ceremony, but they were dismissed by onlookers as tears of joy. A dual legacy. James Harrington's public image was impeccable. Harrington Hotels International, with its luxury properties across the globe, symbolized success and philanthropy. Known as a self-made billionaire, Harrington was celebrated for his charitable contributions, including funding scholarships and donating to medical research. His charm and generosity earned him accolades and a reputation as a visionary leader. However, beneath this polished exterior lay a darker truth. Harrington's business empire concealed a pattern of exploitation that spanned decades. The troubling stories began with Jennifer Hayes in the late 1980s. As a young receptionist at one of Harrington's hotels, she accepted a promotion that led to a sudden disappearance during a business trip. No evidence of wrongdoing was found, and her family eventually accepted a settlement in exchange for confidentiality. Maria Santos, a housekeeper at another property, was briefly married to Harrington. Tragically, she passed away under mysterious circumstances shortly thereafter. Investigations concluded her death was accidental, but questions lingered. Ashley Porter, a customer service employee at a Harrington property, discovered irregularities in the company's financial records. Shortly after raising concerns, she was found deceased, with authorities ruling her death a suicide. Key evidence related to her findings went missing, leaving unresolved questions. The pattern was consistent: Vulnerable individuals were drawn into Harrington's orbit through job offers or financial aid. Promises of opportunity often came with increasing isolation, and those who sought to distance themselves or raise concerns faced obstacles, from legal threats to sudden misfortune. Harrington's influence extended beyond his hotels. A network of trusted associates managed sensitive operations, handled payouts, and ensured compliance. Select properties included private facilities where confidentiality was strictly enforced, further safeguarding Harrington's activities. For years, Harrington's wealth and connections shielded him from scrutiny. His actions remained hidden behind a facade of respectability and philanthropy. However, Emily Turner's disappearance became the turning point that began to unravel the carefully maintained image, drawing attention to the darker truths behind the Harrington empire. Harrington meticulously gathered leverage, treating secrets as his most valuable currency. Every individual within his orbit, employees, allies, and silent partners, was bound by knowledge he weaponized. He maintained an archive of compromising materials, including photos, videos, and financial documents, which ensured unwavering loyalty. Those who complied were generously rewarded with bonuses and promotions. Those who resisted often vanished without explanation. His previous marriages revealed a troubling pattern. Diana Harrington, his wife from 1992 to 1995, died in a car accident shortly after initiating divorce proceedings. Elizabeth Harrington, married from 1996 to 1999, was found dead from an overdose in a hotel room after threatening to reveal damaging information. Grace Harrington, his wife between 2000 and 2004, disappeared during a Caribbean cruise under mysterious circumstances. Rachel Harrington, his spouse from 2005 to 2010, relocated to Switzerland and now lives under strict confidentiality, receiving substantial financial support. Michelle Harrington, married from 2011 to 2015, survived a violent home invasion and subsequently refused to testify or discuss her experiences. Harrington's process was alarmingly consistent, identifying potential targets, conducting thorough background research, exerting financial and emotional pressure, presenting lucrative opportunities, and isolating his victims from their support networks. His control tightened further through calculated documentation of compromising situations, which he leveraged as needed. Marriage solidified his power, and those who became liabilities faced orchestrated silencing or elimination. He operated under multiple identities, complete with forged passports, offshore bank accounts, and properties masked through intricate corporate structures. His hotels often included highly secure floors, accessible only via specialized keycards, where staff were instructed to adhere to an unspoken rule of absolute discretion. Those who worked for Harrington learned quickly. Asking questions was a risk they couldn't afford to take. His private security force was a well-oiled machine comprising elite professionals, including former military personnel and intelligence operatives. These individuals were carefully vetted, generously compensated, and subtly compromised to ensure loyalty. They monitored communications, tracked individuals of interest, and removed evidence with precision. No detail was left unchecked or unaccounted for. Harrington's reach extended to influential figures in law, media, and politics. Judges dismissed cases against him, prosecutors lost key evidence, journalists buried stories, and politicians quietly amended laws to his benefit. He didn't just purchase silence, he constructed systems that protected and perpetuated his power. By 2023, Harrington's operation seemed untouchable. When Emily Turner entered his sphere, she was initially perceived as another controllable target. Harrington applied the same calculated strategies he had used before, gradually tightening his grip on her life. He underestimated, however, Sophie Turner's relentless determination to protect her sister and uncover the truth. Detective Jessica Blackwood's persistence in pursuing justice presented another unexpected challenge. Most of all, Harrington overestimated the invulnerability of his empire. Emily Turner's case was different. Unlike previous victims, she left behind evidence, communications, records, and testimonies that became a pivotal thread capable of unraveling decades of manipulation and control. Harrington's carefully constructed web began to collapse as cracks appeared in his seemingly infallible system. His control over Emily started with subtle gestures disguised as acts of kindness. A state-of-the-art phone he gifted her was preloaded with hidden tracking software, which he claimed was for her safety. Her mother's life-saving cancer treatments depended on that phone remaining active, a dependency that tethered Emily to him. Every favor he extended tightened his hold on her, from financial assistance to the illusion of opportunity, binding her ever closer to his calculated world. Yet despite his meticulous planning, Harrington failed to account for the resilience of the Turner sisters and the growing momentum of justice that was about to disrupt his carefully maintained facade. Harrington meticulously established financial dependency, identifying and exploiting the Turner family's vulnerabilities. Medical bills, mortgage payments, and overdue utilities disappeared one by one, with Harrington always reminding Emily of his generosity. Gradually, his kindnesses came with conditions. He began requiring Emily's presence at business dinners, framing it as a way to earn his support. The family's financial survival became increasingly tied to her compliance, while surveillance over her life intensified. Security teams monitored her movements, documenting interactions with friends and providing Harrington with detailed reports. When Emily secretly met Sophie at a coffee shop, Harrington called immediately, claiming it was a necessary security measure to protect her mother. The intimidation escalated in subtle but unmistakable ways. A tight grip on her arm, standing too close during conversations, security guards deliberately blocking exits. When Emily resisted, Harrington reminded her of her family's precarious situation, her mother's job, her father's absence, her responsibility to maintain stability. Psychological manipulation was Harrington's specialty. He alternated between praise and criticism, calling Emily mature yet mocking her youth, complimenting her intelligence before questioning her judgment. Extravagant gifts were followed by threats to take everything away. This constant contradiction left Emily doubting her perceptions and eroded her sense of agency. Isolation followed. Friends received anonymous warnings to avoid her. Her college admission was deferred because Harrington insisted she focus on other priorities, and family dinners became rare as business obligations consumed her time. Even Sophie's access was restricted through strategic scheduling and surveillance. The turning point came a month before their wedding when Harrington flew Emily to his private island. The tropical paradise concealed a grim reality. Other young women, controlled through similar methods, lived there in fear. Emily witnessed parties where wealthy men treated these women as objects. Medical records from this period revealed unexplained bruises, sprained wrists, and sedative prescriptions. Harrington's private physician, Dr. Marcus Chen, documented the injuries while maintaining strict silence. Blood tests indicated forced drug use, sedatives for compliance, stimulants for public appearances. Emily attempted to escape twice. The first time, she was caught before reaching a boat. The second involved coordinating with Sophie using a hidden phone, but Harrington's surveillance uncovered the plan. The consequences were severe: days of isolation and intensified psychological control. Staff accounts revealed Emily's deteriorating state. She rarely spoke unless prompted. Her hands shook constantly, and she often stared blankly into space. A once vibrant young woman had become a shadow of herself. Harrington recorded everything. Hidden cameras, including one concealed in a pendant he forced Emily to wear, captured abuse and humiliation. These recordings served dual purposes: blackmail against victims and entertainment for powerful associates. When Emily discovered the pendant's true purpose, it became crucial evidence in the case against him. Despite her obvious distress, the wedding proceeded. Guests noticed poorly concealed bruises and Emily's trembling hands. During the ceremony, Harrington gripped her elbow firmly, directing her movements. When she stumbled over the word obey in their vows, his smile tightened. At the reception, Emily made a desperate attempt to communicate by slipping a note into her mother's purse, but Harrington's security intercepted it. By midnight, Emily fully understood the extent of Harrington's control. Her every move was monitored, and even the simplest acts of defiance were swiftly addressed. Grace Turner, now in remission thanks to Harrington's financial support, asked Emily during their mother-daughter dance if she was happy. The music drowned out Emily's response, but tears streaked her carefully applied makeup. Sophie, unwilling to give up, scaled the estate's wall that night carrying evidence of Harrington's previous victims. Security caught her before she could reach Emily. No charges were pressed. Harrington didn't need to. The unspoken message was clear. Resistance was futile. The wedding video, later reviewed by investigators, revealed telling moments. Emily flinched when Harrington touched her face, and during the best man's toast, Harrington's appreciation for youth was remarked upon in a way that raised suspicions. Most damning was a moment where Emily mouthed, "Help me," to a server, her distress evident despite her forced smile. As the reception ended, Emily stood on the grand staircase for photos. She threw her bouquet, which landed at Sophie's feet, her twin having snuck back in wearing a catering uniform. It was their final contact before Harrington whisked Emily away on their honeymoon, solidifying the walls of the gilded cage that would confine her. Inside the bouquet of flowers, Sophie discovered a small, crumpled note. USB in violin. Show Blackwood everything. The newlyweds left the reception under a midnight sky, heading for the Maldives. Harrington carried Emily to the waiting limousine, his gesture earning applause from guests. No one noticed the bruising grip of his fingers on her ribs or heard his whispered threat. Remember, accidents happen on honeymoons. With a signature and a kiss, Emily Turner became Emily Harrington, stepping into a prison of wealth and coercion, her vows sealing a bond built on violence and control. Her wedding, a $10 million spectacle, concealed the sinister transaction beneath. Yet even in her final submission, Emily planted the seeds of Harrington's downfall, ensuring her evidence would survive her last days. The couple arrived at Ori Dreams Resort on July 5th. Their villa, a secluded paradise on the northern tip of the island, quickly turned into a gilded cage. Security footage showed Emily stumbling upon arrival, her dilated pupils hinting at sedation during the flight. The abuse escalated almost immediately. Resort cameras captured her sprinting along the beach at 3 a.m. on their first night, only to be intercepted by Harrington's security team before reaching the main building. Reports of disturbances began to surface. Neighboring villas complained about loud noises, including furniture being moved in the middle of the night. By morning, Emily appeared at breakfast wearing long sleeves, hiding bruises despite the tropical heat. Her last known contact with Sophie came through a borrowed housekeeping phone. He found the photos on my phone, the files from his office. He's talking about loose ends. This might be it, Sophie. If I don't. The call disconnected abruptly, and the housekeeper was transferred to another property that afternoon. On July 6th, the final pieces of Harrington's plan fell into place. He hosted meetings with unidentified men in the villa while resort staff noticed unusual deliveries, industrial cleaning supplies, plastic sheeting, and diving equipment. Emily attempted 4 times to use the resort's business center computer, but security escorted her back to the villa each time. Concerns from staff grew louder. The head chef noted her trembling hands during dinner. The spa therapist observed severe bruising, inconsistent with routine activities. A beach attendant witnessed Harrington grip her arm aggressively during a sunset walk. The last verified sighting of Emily occurred at 11 p.m. that night. Security footage captured her alone at a beachfront restaurant, borrowing a waiter's phone to make a brief call to Sophie's burner phone. Her final recorded words, "He knows about the files, the girls, the islands, everything. I hid." The line cut off before she could finish. Hours later, Harrington reported Emily missing, claiming she went for a midnight swim and never returned. Resort logs, however, painted a different picture. At 10 p.m., Harrington met 2 unidentified men at his villa. By 11 p.m., security cameras on the northern beach malfunctioned. At 11:30 p.m., there was unusual boat activity at the villa's private dock. By 12:30 a.m., the villa experienced a power fluctuation. At 1 a.m., Harrington's security team loaded heavy bags onto a boat. By 2 a.m., a cleaning crew was requested for the villa. The crime scene revealed traces of a struggle despite Harrington's meticulous cleanup efforts. Blood residue was found in the shower drain, broken nails embedded in furniture, and a torn piece of Emily's dress behind the bed. Most damningly, partial fingerprints on a vial of sedatives in the villa safe provided irrefutable evidence. Harrington's cover-up unfolded with practiced efficiency. Security footage vanished, witnesses were silenced with transfers or severance packages, and local authorities initially treated the case as a missing persons investigation. But Detective Jessica Blackwood, arriving days later, quickly unraveled the lies. Despite fresh paint and replaced furniture, the villa told its story. Luminol revealed blood spatter hidden behind the new walls. Strands of Emily's hair were found in the drain, and a broken fingernail embedded in the carpet matched her DNA. Under UV light, a faint impression on a notepad revealed Emily's last written message, "Storage Unit Miami." The investigation expanded, exposing Harrington's decades-long operation. Offshore accounts traced payments to police chiefs, judges, and other enablers. Private islands served as more than retreats, they were prisons for victims. Each discovery linked to past cases. Jennifer Hayes in 2005, Maria Santos in 2006, Ashley Porter in 2010, all victims of the same pattern of abuse, coercion, and murder. Harrington's empire began to collapse. Staff turned against him, revealing the body disposal plan in exchange for immunity. His own timeline crumbled under scrutiny, just with cell tower data placing him at the beach during the alleged dinner meeting. Emily Turner Harrington disappeared into the warm waters of the Indian Ocean, but her final act of defiance shattered Harrington's invulnerability. The USB hidden in her violin contained surveillance footage, financial records, and evidence of his crimes. In death, she achieved what she couldn't in life, exposing Harrington's monstrous network and ensuring justice for herself and countless other victims. Her hidden diary's final entry, later found in Sophie's possession, read, "I chose this. I knew what would happen. Make him pay for all of us." The turning point came from Emily herself. Hidden inside her childhood violin was a USB drive containing everything she had painstakingly collected during her captivity. The drive held devastating evidence: video footage from Harrington's private islands documenting systematic abuse, financial records detailing human trafficking operations, email threads discussing problem disposal, and voice recordings that included both threats and coordinates of body disposal sites. Even as she faced an almost certain fate, Emily had meticulously built the case that would unravel Harrington's empire. Harrington's organization began to crumble. Marcus Chen, his head of security, was the first to defect. Facing life imprisonment, he traded his knowledge for protection, providing a detailed account of Emily's final hours. According to Chen, Harrington's disposal team arrived shortly after Emily's desperate 10:45 p.m. phone call. By midnight, she was dead. By dawn, a professional diving team had ensured her body would never be found. The case expanded through international cooperation, revealing the staggering scope of Harrington's operations. Interpol linked his luxury hotels to trafficking rings across Europe and Asia. FBI forensic accountants uncovered billions in laundered money. Authorities in multiple countries unearthed cases eerily similar to Emily's, buried under layers of wealth and influence. The evidence against Harrington became insurmountable. DNA analysis matched Emily's blood to traces found in the villa's drains, and Harrington's skin cells were recovered from a necktie buried among the debris. Security logs revealed systematic camera malfunctions during critical moments. Freed from Harrington's grip, hotel staff detailed years of special guest protocols and cleanup operations. Emily's fingernail scrapings, preserved in evidence, contained Harrington's DNA, her final act of defiance proving pivotal to the case. Months after Emily's death, Detective Jessica Blackwood arrested James Harrington at his New York penthouse. The man who had commanded press conferences with polished grief showed no emotion as he was handcuffed. His empire of abuse, protected for decades by wealth and influence, finally collapsed under the weight of the evidence Emily had gathered. In death, she achieved what none could in life: the destruction of Harrington's reign of terror. When asked why this case succeeded where others had failed, Blackwood's answer was stark. Emily Turner didn't just die. She left us a map to every dark corner of Harrington's world. She knew what was coming and made sure her death wasn't in vain. On January 15th, the United States District Court in Manhattan fell silent as James Harrington entered in handcuffs. The once charismatic billionaire, now stripped of his tailored suits and confident demeanor, faced justice in an orange jumpsuit. District Attorney Grace Martinez began with a crushing opening statement. This case isn't just about one murder, it's about decades of systematic abuse, trafficking, and killing, hidden behind wealth and a veneer of respectability. James Harrington didn't just kill Emily Turner, he killed hope, innocence, and trust, time and time again. Over weeks, the prosecution dismantled Harrington's facade piece by piece. Marcus Chen outlined Harrington's methods, selecting victims, isolating them, and silencing those who posed risks. Former hotel staff testified about protocols for special guests. Forensic accountants mapped the web of hush money and payoffs. Most damning were Emily's recordings, video evidence of Harrington's rage, audio capturing his threats and admissions, and instructions for disposing of problems. Midway through the trial, Anna Turner, Emily's sister, took the stand. Her testimony of Emily's final months, bruises hidden under long sleeves, whispered fears, and her calculated plan to expose Harrington left the courtroom shaken. Sophie recounted Emily's final phone call. She knew she wouldn't survive, but she made sure her death would mean something. Harrington's defense faltered under the weight of evidence. Attempts to portray Emily as mentally unstable or suggest suicide were dismantled by the medical examiner's testimony, which detailed signs of strangulation and drowning. DNA evidence placed Harrington at the scene, and financial records tied him to cleanup operations immediately following Emily's death. The trial's most harrowing moment came during victim impact statements. Jennifer Hayes' mother described the years spent searching for her daughter. Maria Santos's brother demanded justice for his sister's stolen future. Ashley Porter's father confronted Harrington directly. You thought your money could hide your crimes, but those girls, they were stronger than all your wealth. Grace Turner, Emily's mother, delivered the final blow. She spoke not of vengeance, but of guilt, how Harrington had used her illness to manipulate Emily, binding her daughter to him with threats of withholding life-saving treatment. I survived cancer, she said, her voice trembling, but at the cost of my child's life. The jury needed only a few hours to deliver their verdict, guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder, human trafficking, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and financial crimes. Judge Helen Martinez sentenced Harrington to life without parole, declaring, "You built an empire on broken lives. Now you'll spend the rest of yours remembering every life you destroyed." Harrington's arrest triggered a global reckoning. Police reopened cold cases linked to his properties, and former associates faced justice. The Harrington empire dissolved under scrutiny. Hotels were sold, assets were seized, and his fortune was redirected to victim compensation funds. In Emily's honor, Sophie founded the Emily Turner Foundation, dedicated to protecting vulnerable women from exploitation and abuse. Emily Turner's sacrifice became a beacon of justice, proving that even in death, courage can dismantle empires. As Harrington was led out of court, Anna Turner stood silently, clutching Emily's violin, the same instrument that had concealed the evidence that dismantled his empire. "This is justice," she said, her voice unwavering. "This is what Emily died for." Emily's case not only toppled Harrington, but also reformed a broken system. Her sacrifice inspired sweeping changes in the justice system, beginning with Victoria's Law, named in her honor. The landmark legislation mandated independent oversight for criminal investigations involving billionaires, ensuring that wealth could no longer shield predators from accountability. Passed unanimously by Congress in March, the law closed loopholes that had allowed the wealthy to manipulate jurisdiction, buy silence, and evade consequences. Emily Turner's meticulously planned actions unlocked decades of hidden atrocities, empowering other victims to come forward. Her death was the catalyst for a societal reckoning with the influence of wealth in perpetuating injustice. Anna Turner transformed her grief into a powerful mission. Using funds from victim compensation, she launched the Emily Project, a nonprofit organization focused on combating wealth-enabled abuse. The project provides legal aid, safe housing, and advocacy for women trapped in exploitative situations. Their 24/7 hotline, staffed with trained counselors, has already saved hundreds of lives. The hospitality industry also underwent radical reform. Major hotel chains implemented mandatory training for employees to identify and report signs of trafficking and abuse. Independent audits became standard practice, ensuring compliance with new protocols designed to prevent systemic exploitation. Though costly, these changes began to restore trust in an industry tarnished by Harrington's crimes. Grace Turner, Emily's mother, found solace in helping others. She started counseling families of abuse victims, drawing from her own experiences to guide them through their pain and recovery. Her powerful testimony before Congress was instrumental in strengthening Victoria's law, particularly provisions that prevent medical treatment from being used as leverage for abuse. Emily saved my life twice, Grace often said, first through Harrington's money and then through exposing his evil. Harrington's global network continued to unravel as international investigations expanded. Police reopened unsolved cases linked to his properties, uncovering new victims and collaborators. Former employees, freed from fear, came forward with critical information, bringing closure to grieving families around the world. Sophie, Emily's closest confidant, took on a leading role in advocacy. She emerged as a prominent voice for legislative reform, championing greater accountability for the ultra-wealthy. Her TED Talk, What My Sister's Death Taught Us About Wealth and Justice, sparked a nationwide conversation about privilege in the legal system. Law schools began teaching Emily's case as a model for addressing wealth-enabled crime. The criminal justice system itself evolved. Specialized task forces focusing on financial crimes and wealth-facilitated abuse were established in major cities. Prosecutors received increased resources and protections when handling cases involving powerful defendants. These systemic shifts reflected a growing societal awareness of how privilege could corrupt justice. Emily's story became a blueprint for dismantling systems of exploitation. Her evidence revealed not just one predator, but an entire framework that allowed the rich and powerful to prey on the vulnerable. Media narratives began shifting, moving away from glamorizing wealth to critically examining the dynamics of power and privilege. In schools across the country, the Emily Project introduced a groundbreaking curriculum teaching young people to recognize grooming tactics, financial manipulation, and systemic abuse. Initially controversial, the program has since been hailed as a model for preventing exploitation and fostering resilience in future generations. Years after Emily's death, her legacy continues to grow. Each conviction under Victoria's law brings new hope, and every woman supported by the Emily Project carries her story forward. The systemic changes she fought to create have redefined how society addresses wealth-enabled crime. In Franklin, Tennessee, a small memorial garden now marks the spot where Emily once practiced violin. The plaque reads, Emily Turner, she turned tragedy into triumph, death into justice, and her story into lasting change. Sophie visits often, laying fresh flowers and sharing new stories of lives saved through Emily's sacrifice. To those who come to pay their respects, she says, Emily knew she wouldn't survive, but she made sure her death would protect others. That's not just courage, that's heroism.